the former head coach of the New York Knicks, Seattle Supersonics, Indiana Pacers, as well as for the San Antonio Spurs. Coach Hill has had the privilege of coaching the basketball greats such as David Robinson, Shaquille O'Neal, Reggie Miller, Penny Hardaway, and Kevin Durant. Most recently, Coach Hill was the assistant coach for the Ukrainian national team at the 2014 FIBA World Cup. The man has an awesome basketball resume, and I cannot wait for Mr. Mark to take this interview away. Welcome to the show, Mr. Bob Hill.
Because you've been in these draft rooms, what's the process when you're making the pick, and who actually makes the final decision that says that's who we're going with?
Well, it varies from organization to organization. Sometimes the general manager does everything himself. I mean, he obviously uses his assistants and the scouts and so on and so forth, but a lot of times he'll make the decision. Sometimes the player personnel director or assistant general manager will make it, and everybody gets a vote. So it just varies from organization to organization. But I can assure you, whoever's making the decision, that the draft room is a crazy place during the draft. I mean, you get phone calls from all around the league a lot of times with offers for your pick, or guys trying to move a player, or you name it. So it's a crazy room, and that's why I always got a big kick out of when people said, when somebody in an organization, well, we're definitely going to take him at 6 or him at 10. Well, you might, but you might not, because if you get a better offer, the pick before, then you're probably going to take it. So it's a crazy time, and it's many times Russian roulette.
Yeah. Now, have you ever been in a position where you had to make the call and you regretted the pick that you chose, or?
You mean me personally?
Yes.
No, I've never had to. Coaches usually don't make those calls, I know. I'll tell you a funny story though. When my first draft was in New York City, and Bernard had torn up his knee, and so we needed a small forward. And Indiana, Clark Kellogg was hurt, and they needed a small forward. And they kept telling us they are not going to take Chuck Person. It's just not going to happen. And we had both had Chuck come in, and they picked right before us. And when it was their pick, they took Chuck Person. So they lied to us right up to the last minute.
Oh yeah.
And then they took Chuck Person, so we took Kenny Walker. So I mean that's a good example of what the draft's like.
Looking at this draft right here, do you see anybody you think is going to be an impact player?
Right away?
Yes.
Well, I don't believe in the 19-year-old rule. That's not going to be a very popular thing to say, but I just don't think most of those young kids aren't going to be able to help an NBA team win for quite a while. And so having said that, I don't really see anybody in this year's draft that's going to impact an NBA team. I think there's some guys up at the top of the draft that are going to be good players in time. But, it's really difficult to win with 19-year-olds and 20-year-olds. It's always been hard enough to win with college graduates. And now, these kids they're just not ready. They're just they're not ready to help you win.
So I guess like a Magic Johnson, he was like a rare player that comes along every 15, 20 years, because I know he won a championship when he was 19.
Yeah, but he wasn't in the lottery. He went to the Lakers.
Right.
And he had really quality teammates around him. That was a different scenario. Now, having said that, Magic was special. Magic was special. Michael was special. Larry was special. Larry went to the Boston Celtics. I mean, the lottery wasn't in place yet. So, those teams went to that into their war rooms and put together packages to get those guys to their teams. And so it was a whole different thing back then. And today, supposedly these young players, the better players, are going to bad teams.
You coach a lot of great players. Is it any one particular player that stands out in your mind that, man, I really impacted him, and I really got my greatest fulfilling moment as a coach by how I helped him develop? Is there any particular player you ever experienced that with? Or?
Yeah, I mean, anybody that coached David Robinson would say that he's one of their all-time favorites, just because he's just an incredible person. He was an incredible professional. He was a great teammate. He was great at everything. He
so
just
David,
was extra special.
So you probably say David was your favorite.
Oh, I don't know if he was my favorite. I had a lot of favorites, but Bernard King. When I first started coaching, Bernard was on our team in New York, and he tore up his knee.
Yeah.
This is a long story that I'll give you the cliff notes of this story, but he tore up his knee, and he worked really hard to come back, and he had a clause in his contract that he had to play 6 games in order to get paid by Converse. So with about a month and a half left before the final 6 games, he came to me and said, I need you to work me out after Knick practice. I got to get ready for these last 6 games. So I did. I worked him out, and, he had tears in his eyes most days because it hurt, and he had to learn to play a new way because his knee was never going to be as strong as it used to be. So it was a special experience for me as a young coach to see this man who had already been an all-star come out there and put in his work and cry from pain to get back to play 6 games. And he did that, and I don't know, Mark, I think he averaged 35 points a game the last 6 games. He was just phenomenal. Our team wasn't very good, but he came back, and I was really smart because I gave him the ball a lot. But anyway, I go to Hong Kong not long after that to do a clinic for all the national coaches in Asia.
Yep.
And I get a phone call from the Washington Wizards, or Washington Bullets at the time. That was Danny Ferry's dad.
Oh, yeah.
And he says, should I sign Bernard King? And I said, you should hang up the phone from my call and call him and sign him as soon as you can, because he told me he's going to be an all-star again, and I'd never bet against him. So they signed him. Then I end up in Indiana coaching against him, and he's an all-star again. I mean, Bernard was just extra special. He had Michael Jordan's intangibles before Michael Jordan played. He wasn't as talented and skilled as Michael, but that tenacity to want to win and whatever it was going to take to win, he was ready to give it up and do it.
So he was more than just the guy that just was just going to try to go out each night and just get his points. He was a team player.
Oh, no, he wanted to win. Yeah, he wanted to win. He wanted to win. I mean, he scored points because that was his job, but he wanted to win games. He was just extra special,
Yeah.
But I was really fortunate. I had the opportunity to coach Reggie Miller, and Reggie, in his own right, certainly had some of those characteristics, and Ray Allen, and the list goes on and on. So I've been very blessed with regards to being around talented guys.
You had some experience coaching, overseas, and a lot of the guys that we are working with through the camps, and the guys probably on the phone, are they looking for advice as far as how to launch a career, how to conduct yourself, what can they expect when they get over to Europe or anywhere, any international league, and the kind of the difference between playing basketball in the States versus playing internationally? Can you just kind of give them a little advice?
Yeah, sure. I think, first of all, right now, as we speak, the economy in Europe is not nearly what it is in Asia. There are players, as we speak, making 7 figures in China. I mean, and the CBA is an excellent league. A lot of quality Americans are making nice change in Asia. In Europe, I think Spain, the economy is good in Spain, Greece, but generally speaking, it's on the down low right now, and trying like crazy to make a comeback. Having said that, going to Europe or going overseas to play, if that's what you do for 10, 12, 13 years, that's a terrific career. I mean, that's a terrific career. Plus, you don't have to play as many games. You know, they don't play. It's like James Singleton played for a team in China, played 32 regular season games, got to the finals, so played 32, 34, 36. Let's say he played 40 games, played the whole season, came back to the States, signed with the Washington Wizards, and played the last, 16 games with them. So, I mean, there's guys double dipping and doing really well. So it's not anything to be ashamed of. Certainly, if you don't get drafted or you don't make an NBA team, you can still make quality cash overseas. And I think, the biggest thing is when you do this, you really have to create a basketball resume, because if they look at your numbers out of college and they're not real, they're not what they think they should be, then you're not going to pay you much, or they're not going to sign you at all. So you have to get to a point, a level where you can really do the things you need to do and then move right on up. Time for another story?
Yeah, go ahead.
When I first started coaching years ago, there was two guys out of New York City that ran tours overseas, over to Europe. Richard Sorkin and Greg Cluse. Greg Cluse, I think, was a center, played for St. John's. And there was a player on our team named Brian Scanlon who was a good player. He could really shoot. He didn't dribble it that well, and he ran okay, but he could really shoot the ball. So I worked hard to get him on the tour, and so he leaves on this tour. He's gone for about 10 days, and he calls me, and he says, I'm jumping this tour. These guys are not organized. Don't worry about me. I'll be fine. I'm going to sign my own contract. So I tried to talk him out of it, but he signed a contract in Brest, France. He played in Brest, France for 13 seasons. He married a French girl. The last 2 years, he was the player coach and saved his money, came back to the States, bought, 4 or 5 beachwear stores down in Florida. They did real well. And then he bought 4 or 5 more. He was a multi-millionaire. He has 13 kids, and he homeschooled every one of them.
Wow, that's impressive.
I mean, it's unbelievable. When I wrote my book, I gave him credit in the book. I mean, he's a great example of a guy who nobody in France knew who Brian Scanlon was, and he went over there and, he was professional and he was a great kid, but he's a multi-millionaire to this day because he signed his own contract in Brest, France.
Caller is on the line with a question for Coach Hill. Wandale, go ahead with your question.
You know what's ironic? The question I was going to ask was the question that I want to say. I think his name is Mark. Mark just mentioned that to him about guys that are coming under the radar from a Division II school and how, numbers play a heavy aspect in pursuing your career professionally and internationally. So I guess my question was pretty much answered because I've just been listening to the talk on radio. So, he pretty much answered it for me.
As soon as they started drafting high school kids, it didn't matter if you were Division I, Division II, Division III. I mean, there's guys, Division III guys have gotten jobs too. So, I mean, that's the good news. If there's any good news about, drafting these young guys, is that it kind of opened everything up and gave out other guys opportunities, to pursue jobs overseas.
We have George on the line. George, go ahead with your question.
Hi, Coach Hill. I'm a basketball fan, and I'm here watching the draft tonight. And I just wanted to kind of get a little bit more insight. If you could kind of talk about, there are a lot of bad teams in the lottery, and a lot of times we're seeing them picking more and more players from Europe or other countries with these high draft picks. And it might kind of confuse the average fan as to why a team might pick someone that they're fans and no one's really ever seen, compared to, say, a 4-year commit coming out of college who's like an All-American. Can you kind of explain why teams do that kind of stuff?
Well, the system overseas is completely different than ours. They have club sports over there, so those players over there, they don't go to college and play college basketball. They go and sign with a club, or if they're really good, the clubs will recruit them, and they might be from another part of the country, and they'll move them to their city and put them on their junior team and try and develop them, and then put them on their on the pro team. And in the process of that, the NBA people, if they see a relatively young, experienced pro that's maybe 22 or 23 that's already got some pro experience that kind of fulfills a need that they feel they have, they'll take that guy. And it's it's born from the fact that they're already pros and they've played in a pretty good league. Like the league in Spain is really good. The league in Russia is really good. Greece has a good league. So there's some good leagues over there where the young Europeans play, and sometimes they sign them when they're really young, like when they're 13. So they've been playing professional basketball for a while. And so I think the big reason they take those players is because of experience in professional basketball.
We have our second interview that we've got to get to today. So, Brian, you can go ahead and kind of give us a little introduction about our next interview.
Yes, I definitely want to bring on Vic. He's been someone we haven't known a long time, but we've been talking. He's going to be out at the Houston camp. He comes from Costa Rica. He played in the pro league there, I believe, 13 years. Got a lot of connections with those clubs. He's going to kind of come out to our Houston camp and check out some players. But definitely, Vic, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Brian, for having me.
No, thanks. I appreciate you coming on. First off, if you could just give a little details about Costa Rica, the league down there in basketball, because I know a lot of players that's not one of the countries they might know a lot about. You can go a little details about that.
Sure, I can certainly do that. So first, let me talk a little bit about the country. It is located in Central America, right in the middle of the America continent. We are a small country though, 4 million people overall, but a very, very, very sporty country. We are very, very people that love sports. Costa Rica did a very good job in the Soccer World Cup. We end up on the 3rd position, and we are always towards sports. So developing the youth and developing the talent that we have in the country. A little bit more about the political stability and everything. Well, we don't have army. The country abolished the army many years ago. So all that money is invested in healthcare and education. So that made us the probably top 3 countries in Latin America in regards of education and healthcare. It's a very touristic country. Probably you have heard about it because, actually we are 4 million Costa Ricans, but we receive another 4 million tourism a year. So a lot of tourists, beaches and mountains, volcanoes, lakes. You can find everything, rainforest. So a lot about that. The weather is tropical, and basically a lot of Americans, they come down to live in Costa Rica. They use the country as a retirement place. So you can find a lot of Americans loving the sports down there. And basketball is very popular here. So it's becoming very, very popular down there within the Americans community. If I talk about the basketball league, I can say that, we are still growing. There is a lot of space for us to grow. We can consider the team in the top 10 of Latin America. Actually, we are the number 1 in Central America. We just became champions a year and a half ago. So we are Central American champions. But when we go and play in Latin America, of course, Dominican Republic, Argentina, Brazil, they are in a better level. But, it's a very competitive league. Basically, in terms of the foreigners in each of the teams, we usually have around 7 teams on the first division, and they can have 3 foreigners per team. Only 2 can be playing on the court. So usually these players, they come from the U.S. We have some Colombians, we have Dominican Republic people also, but the 90% of the players that play on a foreign spot, they are coming from the U.S. Where from the U.S.? Well, we have been having the majority of them from D1 and D2 NCAA. So there's where the players are usually coming from. But I can tell you a funny story. We also have two ex-NBAs who came down and played 1 year down in Costa Rica. The first one was Ben Davis. He played for the Phoenix Suns. He was a big guy, big five. And the other one was Khalid Reeves. Actually, he played in Costa Rica the following year. And Khalid, was very popular in the NBA. He played for Dallas, for Miami, the Bulls. So these two guys have been there. I can tell that these are like the highest profile that we have been having in Costa Rica. It is an addictive country. You need to understand that. So the country cuts you in, the people, the culture, everything is very addictive. The people really like the country. So when they come, when we usually see players from the U.S. coming down, they usually get in love with the people, the country, the environment. And actually, I wanted to add a last topic about the challenges of a foreign player in Costa Rica. I heard the coach talking about all those things, and they are very true. I've been playing in Costa Rica more than 13 years in the Pro League, and I have seen a lot of players coming from the U.S. and he's right. All the challenges he mentioned are very true. I would like to add the specific challenges for Costa Rica, not challenges but the things that the player will have to deal with. Well, the first one is, the language. In Costa Rica, the official language is Spanish. A lot of people speak English, actually many people, and in the basketball environment, everybody speaks English. But when you have to go to the street and you have to take a taxi or a bus or you want to drive around the city, there's where you have to learn a little bit of Spanish. The food, of course, Costa Rica is a very tropical, very natural country, so you can get a lot of vegetables, fruits, and everything. But the food can be kind of different, and when you are a high-level performer in terms of sports, your food is very important. And the lifestyle, Costa Rica is all about spending the life in the beach and being relaxed. And the people can get confused with less laziness, right? So you need to focus and you need to keep on being in your track. Additional thing is, you are going to be the star of the team, as the coach said. The people is expecting a lot from you. And the mistake that the couple players have been doing is that they think that they have to do everything. And actually, it's a combination of stepping up, but also developing the team, right? You need to raise the level of your partners, otherwise the team are not going to win, And I have seen that the most successful players coming from the U.S. down to Costa Rica are the ones who, of course, they step up, but they also make the other team going one level up. That's very important. Since you are the top performer, so you need to be self-disciplined. You need to work out individually. You need to set up the bar yourself, because nobody will, right? So you are the best player in the team, so nobody will challenge you. Of course, there's good talent. Of course, there's people that is going to put you on the spot. But, overall, you guys are there because you are top performers. And give back. If you give back, you will earn a lot of trust in the team. So, for example, teaching the youths, doing some camps with the kids, those things are very, very appreciative by the Costa Ricans, and if you do that, you will get the heart of the fans and the owners of the teams. Those could be my advices of playing down there.
So one other question I wanted to ask you was you talked about kind of the environment down there, and we've been trying to take a tour team down there off of the upcoming camps. What type of experience you think players would get out of that tour?
Well, you will get impressed by the level of basketball we have down there. I have shared the example that we always get Division I teams that they come down there in Costa Rica to do preseason. So I can talk to you about Oklahoma University. I can talk to you about Marquette. These are two examples of universities that have been down there doing their preseason camps, and we beat them. So they play with the top four teams of our first division, and we always beat them. Probably out of 4 games, they win 1, probably no more than 2. So that could talk a little bit about the level of the country. So if you go down there in Costa Rica and you play in this summer camp team, well, you will have to step up. You will have to deliver the best you have, because the Costa Ricans are ready to show you what they have. Actually, a dream of a Costa Rican player is always to make it to the NBA. I can tell you that in the last 10 years we have been having probably more than 10 players in Division I in the U.S., but some of them have been in Division II. And that's the farthest we have been. So the people is looking forward to get that. So they are improving the level and the passion about the sport down there.
How many teams are in the league, and when's the start and the end of the season, just so all the players out there know that information?
Yeah, sometimes we get 1 or 2 teams from the second division. So we usually get 8 teams in average on the first division, and they are from the different cities. So you will have to be traveling around the city. So remember, around the country, and remember that Costa Rica is probably 1/4 of Texas. So Costa Rica is very small. So traveling around the country means staying on a bus probably 3 hours, 4 hours to the longest ride. So that's probably the situation. But these are different cities in all of the places in the country. So as I said, 8 in average. Sometimes are 9, sometimes are 7. It depends on how many teams are coming from second division. The other question you asked me was, I'm sorry, can you repeat?
Just when the season starts and
okay.
finishes.
Yeah, it is expected to. We had a different season, but now we want to align with FIBA regulations, right? So the season this year is going to start probably in October. So the teams are going to get together early in September for the preseason. So the players must be there, by September. Some of them might be doing it in late August. But officially, the tournament starts in October. It goes up to mid-December. Then we have like a 2-3 weeks freeze for the holidays, and then it come back second week of January till March, probably April. Not until April, actually. You can go up to May if you make it to the finals.
Well, I appreciate you coming on tonight and taking some time to talk to us, get some more information out there. We will definitely look forward to seeing you at the Houston camp on Monday and Tuesday, and hopefully we can get some good players that can get down there and play in Costa Rica.
Yeah, perfect. No, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for showing us the talent that you guys have, and looking forward to bring some of that talent down to Costa Rica to help us develop the league and the sport in the country.
I want to make sure your players out there got that. He said they do have 3 import slots per team, so it's a pretty good amount of opportunities down there in that country.
Again, follow us on our Facebook page, which is Basketball Exposure Camp. We have it Twitter, and we have Instagram, and it's the same name, so you don't have to do anything. It's at @bball_summit. And our website, of course, like Brian and Mark mentioned, www.McNeilEvents.com. And don't forget about our contest taking place right now. It ends tomorrow, so ask fast. Want more information about that, please visit our Facebook or just give us a call. You can give us an email, and we'll be able to give you that information. Like I said, they said before, the Houston camp is filling up, but it's still not too late. If you're thinking about it, just go ahead and do it. And, of course, Vegas camp is coming up July 12th through the 14th. Thank you all again. You all have